If you own a property in London or anywhere else in the UK, you need to watch this video. But if you're renting, you should watch this video as well, because the UK government is introducing the biggest rental reform in decades, and from May 2026 the rules of renting are starting to change. This is one of the most significant changes to the private rental sector in many years. No more no-fault evictions, open-ended tenancies, new rules on rent increases. For many landlords, this will make the rental market more regulated and more complex than ever. And here is the interesting part. While some landlords are worried about these changes, others see a big opportunity. In this video, I want to explain what the new UK rental reform actually means, when the changes start to apply, and what both landlords and tenants should know. I am Marco Fasanella, I am a member of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyor, and I work in real estate as an advisor and asset manager, with over 15 years of experience across the UK and Italian market. I am co-founder of Habitat Investments, our development company, and Habitat Living, our operations and property management brand. And on this channel, we focus on explaining how real estate works in practice, covering investment, development, and operations, always in a clear and practical way. Let's start with the context. In England, around 1 in 5 households lives in the private rental sector. And over the past years, renting has become a major political and social issue. Many tenants have been concerned about the lack of stability when renting, the possibility of sudden rent increases, and the risk of being asked to leave a property without a clear reason. And if you are a tenant watching this video, you probably know exactly what that uncertainty feels like. Now, imagine you're renting a flat in London. You have just moved in, maybe you have changed your commute, your children started school nearby, and you're starting to build your life around that area. You finally feel settled. But then, one day, you receive a notice from your landlord saying you need to leave the property, even if nothing has gone wrong. That is exactly the kind of situation the government is trying to address with this reform, and the most well-known part of it is the abolition of Section 21, often called the no-fault eviction. Until now, landlords in England could ask tenants to leave a property without providing a specific reason through Section 21. But under the new system, Section 21 will disappear. In the future, landlords will only be able to regain possession of a property if there is a valid legal reason. In particular, selling the property, moving into the property themselves, or other legally defined grounds. But here is the challenge. Many landlords relied on Section 21 simply as a safety mechanism, not necessarily because they wanted to evict tenants, but because it gave them flexibility if circumstances ever changed. Removing that mechanism means the system becomes more structured and more regulated, making it harder for landlords to regain possession of their home. A further significant change is taking place with the tenancy agreements. Currently, most rental agreements in England are fixed term, often lasting 12 months. The new legislation will remove fixed-term contracts and establish periodic tenancies, permitting tenants to reside in a property indefinitely, provided, of course, they comply with its term, for example, paying the rent. In addition, notice periods will be adjusted. Tenants can end their lease by giving 2 months' notice, while landlords are required to provide at least 4 months' notice and must have a valid legal reason to terminate the tenancy agreement. This change gives tenants more stability than before, when landlords were able to evict them for any reason, just giving a short 2 months' notice. The reform also brings in stricter guidelines for how rents can be increased and how properties are advertised to potential tenants. Firstly, landlords will only be allowed to raise the rent once every year. This change is designed to give tenants greater financial stability, as they will not have to worry about sudden or frequent increases in their rent. Additionally, tenants will have more power to dispute rent increases if they believe the rise is unfair or too high. Let's see this a bit more in details. If a landlord attempts to increase the rent by a substantial amount, the tenant is entitled to challenge this action through a formal process. The procedure typically involves the tenant tenant first raising their concerns directly with the landlord and attempting to negotiate. If an agreement cannot be reached, the tenant may escalate the matter through a formal procedure. Another significant update is the prohibition of bidding wars. In the past, tenants might have been encouraged to offer higher rent than the advertised amount in order to secure a property, which could push rents up unfairly. However, the new rules require that properties must be advertised with a set rental price, and tenants will not compete by offering more than this stated figure. This should ensure the process is transparent, fair, and prevents rents from being artificially inflated due to competition among prospective tenants. There are also several other elements included in this reform. Tenants will have stronger rights when requesting pets, and landlords will need to consider these requests reasonably. Landlords can no longer refuse to rent to tenants who rely on housing benefits or universal credit. This ensures fair access to housing for everyone, regardless of how they pay their rent. A national landlord database will be introduced to improve transparency in the sector, and a new landlord ombudsman will help resolve disputes between landlords and tenants without always going through the courts. And a new landlord ombudsman will also help resolve disputes between landlords and tenants without always going through the courts. If you are renting, there is good news. Landlords will have to be registered so everyone knows who is renting out homes. There are clear rules in place about how landlords should treat tenants, making renting fairer and safer. And if you have a problem, there is an official help center called the Landlord Ombudsman, where you can sort things out without going to court. All this means you can feel more secure and confident when moving into a new place. So when is this law coming into force? The law was passed in 2025, but its changes will begin taking effect in May 2026, with some measures being phased in gradually. Whether you're a landlord or a tenant, the transition is already underway, and it's now more important than ever to understand these new regulations. So what should landlords be doing today? First, understand the new legal framework. Second, review tenancy agreements and compliance requirements. And third, take a serious look at how property are managed. Because here is the reality: the rental market is becoming much more regulated, more structured, and more professional. Managing rental property today is not the same as it was 10 or 15 years ago. Landlords now face a host of new responsibility brought about by recent reforms. These include ensuring all properties meet updated safety and energy efficiency standards, providing tenants with clearer contracts and up-to-date information about their rights, and complying with stricter requirements regarding deposits and rent increases. In addition, landlords must register with relevant authorities, adhere to anti-discrimination laws, and respond promptly to maintenance requests. There are also new obligations to carry out regular property inspections, keep comprehensive records, and offer greater transparency in dealing with tenants. Furthermore, with these increased duties, failure to comply with these regulations can result in significant penalties, making it essential for landlords to stay informed and proactive in managing their properties. The entire situation is changing. For many years, the UK rental market has been dominated by individual landlords managing properties themselves. But as regulations increase and tenant protections become stronger, managing property is becoming much more complex. And this is why we are starting to see a shift toward professionally managed rental housing. In fact, professional management helps ensure compliance, improves tenant experience, and often creates a more stable long-term relationship between landlords and tenants. The UK rental reform is a significant shift. While it brings challenges, it also offers a chance to create a more professional, transparent, and stable rental market. And for investors who understand how the market is evolving, London will remain one of the most interesting residential markets in the world. Ultimately, housing should not be regarded solely as an investment asset. It represents homes where individuals reside, form a relationship, and plan for their future. Therefore, safeguarding tenant is essential. At the same time, it is necessary to establish a framework that enables responsible landlords to continue offering high-quality housing in a sustainable manner. And now, I'm curious to hear your opinion about this. If you're a landlord watching this video, do you currently manage your properties yourself or do you work with professional management? And if you're a tenant, do you think these changes will make renting in London more secure? And what do you think makes a great landlord? Write it in the comments, I would really like to know. If you enjoy straightforward, practical conversation about property, you are in the right place. This channel is all about real estate, whether it's investment, development, asset management, or market updates. No hype, no shortcuts, just real talk about how property really works. If this interests you, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You will always stay updated. Thanks for watching and I look forward to connecting with you again soon. Ciao!